Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today's live match is mine and Scott Doodson's first attempt at qualifying for the Canal Pairs Championship. This one's at Shebdon on the Shropshire Union Canal. Scott's in A section, he's drew A19, which is an average peg at best, and I've drew B4, which is up by the triangle on the Shropshire, just short of Soudley, and I do quite fancy it, to be fair. There used to be a lot of trees along this section, and to the right of my peg there was a great big tree, and that's all been cut down, that has. Now when I've plumbing around, I've checked to see if I could find any snags, because usually when the trees are chopped down you can find half the branches in the canal in front of you. Right to my right there, where there's a big open bit there, we can see it's starting to come back actually, but there was a great big tree there and it's just gone. I've took the lot down, obviously because it was protruding too far into the canal. But there you go, they've chopped it down, it's gone. That's the cover of the peg gone, or most of the cover of the peg gone. Hopefully it won't have took the fish with it. The plan was to base my attack on big fish basically, bream, and there's lots of perch here as well. Bream, I'm going to feed bread because you can catch a lot of bream on a big punch here, early doors. And then I've fed this ball here I'm making up, has got worms and casters in it. I'm going to put it under the tree that's to my left, as far in as I can go to get into cover away from boat traffic basically. It's about 13 metres right underneath that bush. Just got to be careful when I strike. So I'm feeding all my lines. I haven't fed many lines to start with. I was just going to work my way into the peg and see how it goes. So I fed some bread down the track, and I fed some off the front of that tree to the left of it, and then I've put a ball of ground bait with chopped worms and casters and a few dead maggots right into the cover. I'm going to start the match by fishing a 6mm punch down on that track line. It's top 2 and 2, and see if I can catch anything there, see what happens. Like I said, I spent a bit of time plumbing up just to make sure there was no snags in front of me, and I obviously didn't do very well, because the second run through I hook a snag. There you go, it's solid. I'd run the rig through a couple of times as well before the match just to make sure. Never hooked anything, it felt really clean, and there you go, it's solid. That's only a 3's elastic on that, and 08 bottoms, so it shouldn't take too much to pull for the brake. Bit dodgy doing it the way I did there, because that could have come back and hit me in the eye. Don't recommend doing it like that. And that's that rig ruined. So I'll pick up my other bread rig, which is the one to the front of that tree, and we'll go and have a look there, and I'll sort that rig out in a bit. I just want to get fishing. I've got Fred Cheetham to my left, and the peg Fred's drew, I think it was Wendy Locker drew it a few weeks previous, and it was an end peg that day, and then peg come from the other way. That pegged from the the oak tree length, and she was end peg, and I'm sure they said she had £36 there, so I was quite happy to be where I was, thinking this could be okay here. And to my right I got Ant Marsden, one of the Wigan lads. These are experts at fishing down the track, these lot, fishing for snigs, big eels and what have you down the track. So if they have a go, I'm in for a tuning off him, because I'm not that brilliant at catching eels. I've caught plenty in the past, but nowhere near as many as these guys. It's not something I've really worked at trying to get right, because I don't like catching them basically. I only fish for them if I've got to. No, I've had a quick fish off that line, just a small roach. There's another boat coming, so get this rig sorted while a boat's coming through. First of all, get the tangles out of it, then I've got to replace the hook length. We had a few boats on the day. Most of them were okay, to be fair. Came through nice and steady down the middle of the canal, which is what you always want. Put a new hook length on, another 08 hook length with a size 20 natural M40 hook. My favourite hook for bread and hemp fishing basically. Although I did use it the other day for caster fishing for roach, and I was very impressed with it fishing that as well. So new hook length on, I'm going to plumb the short line again, but plumb it further down the peg. Try a little bit harder to find if there's any snags there. And my plan was to start on bread and then switch the track line to worm. And I've plumbed that line, I've had a quick drag around, I can't find any snags. Now I'm going to go back over on the bread again. It's not fishing brilliant, there's not lots being caught around me, so it's still anybody's game at the minute. Still early doors though. Another boat on its way. Drop back in behind it. Sitting there for a little while. There ain't many roach about, but I have hooked a bream. Here we go. I'm using Fours elastic, single 4 slip on this through a top 2. Like I said, there is a chance of catching bream along here, so I've gone slightly heavier on the elastic. And this rig's actually got a size 18 M40 with an O10 hook length, just for this very reason. I'm using a bigger punch, because I am targeting bream. He's got some fight in him. Get in that net. £2 bream. Happy days. Nice £2 fish. Good start. We're probably about 35 to 40 minutes into the match here. And like I said, it's not fishing well. Not many fish are being caught at all. I should imagine everybody like me has started the match trying to find some early bonus fish. Unfortunately, I never had no more fish off this line. So it's time to have a look for something else on another line. I'm going to get that track line fed again. And hopefully catch something down there. Target something down the middle. I'm also going to top that line up over towards the tree as well. Never know, I might catch another one there. We'll see. And the other flies are taking a liking to my camera. My pole sock fell off. Mustn't have been clipped in properly. Right, so now I'm picking up this rig which is going under the tree and putting a worm on. Go and have a look over the top of that ground bait. Where I've put the worms and casters and dead mags. See if there's anything sitting on that. Like I say, it's tucked right under that tree there, so I've just got to be careful when I strike. If I do get a bite. And that was a complete waste of time. Never had an indication on it.
Not going to be brilliant, is it?
Not a single indication.
Sorry? Yeah. Wants to be back in the mission to start with.
So I'm going a little bit further back, which is just in front of me. A little further back to the bramble line and see if there's anything. See if I'm just that little bit further over. There's a little ball with some worms and casters in again. And see if anything happens. Right, so I'm going to go back over to that tree line now and see if I can catch me another bream on the bread. Another boat come in. It's got quite a bit of flow on the canal today. That just tells me there's lots of boats being moving. No more bites on that line. Quick look where I've just put that ground bait with worms in. And I don't get a bite there either. So up to my right, I've just been loose feeding casters. I'm just going to drop the rig over there and see. Obviously it's still got a worm on it. I'm just going to drop the worm rig over there to see if there's anything sitting over the top of them casters. And I don't get an indication. So I've still not sorted a plan out yet. And still nobody's really catching anything. And another boat. Now we've had a few boats now, and I felt I'd missed my opportunity with the bread down the track when I had that problem with the snag. So I've refed that line with some worms and casters. So I'm going to go over it now with a worm and see if there's anything there. Not expecting too many bites down there, to be fair, because we've had a few bouts already. I'm quite surprised to catch a fish there. Happy days. Half decent skimmer. So there's a few fish there. That's just on a worm segment, that is. Segmented Dandrobina worm. I'll come through the top and out through the side and then nip it off at the saddle or thereabouts. So it's probably like an inch and a half long piece of worm. And just to make sure I get the feeding accurate, put a little cad pot on, put a little tiny bit of mince worm in and a few casters, because it's quite far down my peg and I'm not sure that I can reach it with throwing basically. So I'm just going to feed it with a cad pot and then throw the odd caster over the top. So I'm feeding it and dropping the rig in behind it. And this is turning out to be my best line up to yet. Another half decent silverfish. Half decent perch.
Perch. Trying to keep up with Fred. I swear at me, Fred.
Fresh piece of worm on the hook. A few more casters in the pot. Tiny pinch of mince worm. I'm using an 1/2 gram Preston Power float here. It's got a 1.5 mil tip on it and it's quite good for holding back in a bit of flow. I slightly overshot them, so I've got to keep working the rig because I feel most of the fish you're going to catch over worm down the track are going to be perch, and if you've got to keep moving the rig you're actually jigging the worm, which is enticing a bite. So I've had that little tiny perch. It's time to give it a decent top up, leave it alone and go and have a look at something else again. Just trying to mag it over where I fed that bread. See if I can catch anything on that. No. Waste of time. I'm going to keep feeding it though. Keep putting a bit of bread in every now and then and just see if I can draw something in there at some point.
How's Danny doing? Anything in skimmers? Aye?
Just washing the dregs out my pot there.
Never been lucky, has he?
Now because it's hard I've decided to feed a squat line. So I've got my base mix, which is sweet skimmer, black and black river. I'm going to put some squats into it. I'm going to feed it directly in front of me at around 11 metres. The sole big fish approach is obviously not working, so give me something to do basically. Catch a few squat fish if I can. So to that mix, that base mix, I'm adding a few squats, make a couple of balls up and drop them in at 11 metres. But catching a few of them, it stops me getting bored as well. Because it's obviously fishing a little bit harder than what we all expected. Especially with how well it fished a few weeks previous. So back down the track now on the worm. See if there's anything else turned up. And another boat turns up. Just a little bit further than where I'm fishing, so it didn't interrupt me too much. I'm into another fish again. Little tiny perch. Better than nothing. They're bigger than you think, these perch. They look tiny, but they're around an ounce, maybe a bit more. Love catching perch because they're real weight builders. If you can keep them coming, you can put a good weight together. And another boat. Now, I left this late, and when I picked it up, I think I hooked a snag. I'm pretty sure it was a snag. Trying to get it out the way, the riggers got caught on the boat. I've lost the lot. Eh dear. I'm not happy. And it's actually stretched my elastic as well. No problem, I'll just pull it out the side puller a bit more. Have it hanging out the side of the pole. Not a problem. Time to get a new rig out.
Oh, yeah.
Lost one of my favourite track floats there. Never mind, I've got another. While I'm setting up this new rig, I've dropped the maggot in down the track. And the elastic I've just pulled out the side of the pole is now stuck in the grass. Can you tell I'm getting a bit wound up? Nothing's going to plan.
I'm not sure whether I've just had a fish on or whether I've snagged up when I went to move it out the way of that boat. Well, I got it stuck under the boat, whatever it was. The hole off. Yeah. I don't know what it was. I'm pretty sure it was a snag. But I've already had snags before anyway.
Right, so now I'm back on the worm rig and I'm just holding the rig steady while this boat goes over, and I managed to get a bite. First time I've ever had that happen. I've done it plenty of times, tried to fish alongside the boat as it's going over, and it's the first time I've actually ever had a bite while it's happening, and it's an half decent perch, 2-3 ounce job.
First time I've ever done that. Had a fish.
I'm talking to Aunt Marzen about it, and he reckons he catches most of his eels in the wash of a boat.
First time I've ever had that.
I never knew that.
Ever.
Something to bear in mind in the future.
Hey? Ooh.
Just thinking he might go under again when this one went past, but no. No more bites on this now. It's starting to get really hard. Trying over to that worm line again, nothing. Go and have a quick look on the squat line, see if there's anything turned up there. Keep the boredom away for a bit. Don't feel I'm going to go anywhere with these little fish, but it's better than catching nothing, I suppose. Well, I'm thinking of what to try next. Some of them ain't a bad stamp. After that initial burst of those squat fish, it went a bit dry. It dried up a bit, so I'm there going into the lion's den. And I'm going to plumb right up the back, up against the wall, right underneath that bush. and see if I can catch anything over there. I don't know how I'm going to do it, if I do hook something, but we'll give it a go. So it plumps up quite nice under there. It's got some decent depth. So hopefully there'll be something under there. So I'm going to feed some worms and casters under there, some chopped worm and caster. Now the hedge behind me is really high. There's no option of shipping over the top of it. So there's a little hole in the edge behind me. So I'm just pushing the pole forward there, touching the wall, bringing it back slightly, and then feeding. Well, I have to take a section off so as I can get the angle to get through the hole behind me.
Yeah, if I hook one in there.
I'm going to give that 5 minutes. Have a quick look down the track while that's settling. Back on the worm. That fails to produce a fish, so it's time to go into the lion's den. Give that a quick feed first. Pretty much made my mind up what I'm doing now. I'm just fishing track with worms and hopefully under that bush with worms. Nowhere else in the peg is really producing anything on any other baits, so might as well just stick with these methods. Now this could be disastrous, this could when I go under this bush, because if I strike and hit a branch, I could lose the lot. I could have a fish suspended from a branch via my rig, and it could all be, like I say, it could be a disaster. But I've got to give it a go. If I do hook something, I've got to drop that section off pretty smartish and then ship back. So here we go. I can barely see the float because it's that dark under there. And I get a bite. Section off. And I've hooked a decent fish.
It went under.
I was hoping it was going to be a bream. Turned out it was a half decent perch. I tried to get under the bank on the inside. And there we go. And that pretty much sums up the match. I never had many more fish. A few little bits and bobs. I only had one more bite under that bush from a little perch. I never had another fish down the track. Never had no more bream. And that was your lot. So I come to the end of the match. Oh, before we come to the end of the match, just have a look at this. clouded over, and then all of a sudden the heavens opened. Trying to cover my camera up there, look. I should have just chucked the brolly up. Making a right mess of that. The camera behind me is in the hedgerow, so that was pretty safe there. It wasn't really getting any problem from rain. So that was the last bit of good action. Got absolutely soaking wet. All my kit was drenched. Never mind, eh? Come the end of the match, I weighed £4 and 11 ounces, which in the grand scheme of things wasn't brilliant. Out of the 28 competitors, I finished 11th, I think, or 12th. Not a disaster, but no pickup. Scott didn't do brilliant in his section either. Never expected him to do too well, to be honest, from where he'd drawn. And there you go. There's a catch shot. So if you enjoyed watching that, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like this, please subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.